Hello and welcome to the Limited Adhesion GT3 League. This time we're at Spa and round 2 of this season. Once again in the commentary booth I'm joined by Random Dave. How are you this evening, Dave?
Hello. Yeah, I'm alright. I've just been to a pagan wedding at the weekend.
Wow, you certainly get round and about. How was that?
Yeah, it was alright. Yeah, I had a lot of fun though, getting somebody's kid to put Scotch eggs in people's pockets.
Hopefully there'll be some antics just like that in tonight's race, following on from the last one, which was actually a very large grid, and I believe being Spa we will have another well attended event today. As you can see, the weather is quite a balmy 26 degrees, partly cloudy, so that will keep the temperature on the track pretty well as we look to see who's going to continue on from the first race. We'll see some of the new people in this is Steph Dickender. Apologies if I screw your name up there. I believe Steph's from Belgium, so welcome to the league, Steph. Liking that livery on the car. And I believe Steph is in the Club 1500. As we see penalties from Watkins, Glenn, Xander picking up a penalty for that spin. Dan Shaw getting a pit lane start for causing 2 collisions as deemed by the stewards. Nice replays there. Sean Clark starts in the pit lane for an unsafe rejoin in the previous round. And that's all from that round. So we see the guys lined up. Ollie Walker takes pole position with a 2-minute 14.7, followed by Xander, who was only 1/10 behind. Jordy Spetgens half a second behind, and David Line makes his return to the league in 4th position. Nigel Joblin in 5th, and the pick of the rest there. We see Stephen Greening and Michael Messenger further down the grid than what I would expect to see them. And Gabriel Carollo takes pole position on top. He's been one of the favourites, I think, for this season, the Club 1500, with Dan Shaw just behind him, Chris White in 3rd, and Chris Forrester, his teammate, in 4th. Steph Dickender takes 6th position in that class in his debut, and some other ones just to pick out there. We've got Roberto Costa, Janman Pruis as well, Rich Meesters, Jake Weaver, Steve Pepper's joined us once again, and of course Sean Clark will be in the pits for the start. Don Parker, I just seen out the corner of my eye, starting at the back. He seems to be making a habit of this at the moment. Maybe he enjoys the challenge.
The qualifying around here, you've really got to get your lap on the first lap out. The second lap, the tyres go off a bit too much, so that tends to kind of mix it up a bit, because you've only got a couple of goes really, because you've got to do your out lap, your lap, and your in lap. You can only do that twice, so you've really only got 2 laps to do it.
Right, that's interesting to know. Yeah, that's good tactical point of view there from Dave. And Ollie Walker, he done pretty well last time round, I believe, and it was quite a hectic round last season. He gets away early, and away they go.
So we're missing Xander here.
Yeah, I believe Xander might be starting from the pits.
Of course, yeah.
So they quickly opt to go one by one, apart from one just trailing at the background there. That might be Evan Conception taking Gavin Kelly at the corner. Fairly clean start at turn 1, which is pleasing to see. We'll see how they get down to Oroge and Radion, all single file and no nasty challenges going in there so far. Fairly evenly split out as well. As we head to Lake Home. Oh, and that's Jordy Spetgens making a move on Walker on the inside. Does he get the job done? Indeed he does. Ollie Walker chooses not to challenge it. And that's David Line just lurking in the background there. He might be looking to pick up a position if someone makes a mistake out the front too. Not too many position changes as of yet. Probably playing it safe in the long game there, as we see the leaders of the Club 1500 also just up tailing on the top split guys.
It's good to see it. Good to see an A team 3-4 at the moment.
It is indeed, yeah. It's great to see Rob Miller joining as well, and of course David Line missing the first round, but he's back in action here. Yeah, they're looking quite menacing in the background with those kind of dark liveries. So, do you have any favourites for this race?
I'm going to say Ollie Walker. He's really strong around here.
Yeah, I think you're right in that call. Another one I would go for is probably Forrester. He done well in the last round, as we see someone is going wide there at the curb. Paul Frere. Yeah, I would say Ollie Walker is very strong at this one particularly. I want to give my guess to Forrester because he did have a quite strong showing at Watkins Glen and looking pretty pacey. We'll see how he does.
He's definitely fast here, but I think that the BMW is just a lot easier to get through the race. It's the car to have around here.
Yeah, very steady.
Anything else is kind of just a little bit more tricky, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
There's
definitely
a lot of Mercedes here though, but it's kind of all BMWs up front at the moment.
Yeah. So Jordy Spetgens taking the fastest lap so far, of course, with Loic Martin actually taking the fastest lap in the Club 1500 from 4th place. He's made up a couple of positions.
Where's Rob gone?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's Reed's down in 13th at the moment, so yeah, I wonder what happened to him. Did he have to pit, or perhaps he made a mistake at Paul Frere? That might have been him going wide that we've seen. So it looks like the front three are starting to pull away.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're starting to pull away, but I think that's just because there's kind of a Rob Miller-sized gap between 3rd and 4th at the moment. So
yeah, it's a good spot. Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're in the BMW, do you kind of opt for the high downforce at this track, or do you kind of opt for the low downforce end and hope that you get kind of a run on the straights?
I think you can go quite low downforce and get away with it. It just, it's you can go through Blanchimont and Arouge, flats, and not have to hold on for dear life, really. Oh,
as we see, that's Chris Forrester, I believe, and Loic Martin coming together. It looked like Chris Forrester had a spin. He was actually doing quite well. He's up in 2nd place. So let's see if he can pick that back up. We'll no doubt see a replay. And I think Loic might have just been an unwilling spectator in that crash. As we get to see Nigel Jobling, he's up into 5th position. And that indeed is Philip Forrester on his tail. Yeah, it's very close in the top 9 positions here. Yeah, indeed, Forrester setting the fastest lap so far. So he does have some pace. We'll see if he can keep that up. And Forrester's in the Merc, I believe, this season. Oh no, he's in the BMW. My mistake. We'll soon see.
I think that looks like something that isn't either one of those.
Yeah, it might be. I'm looking at a completely wrong car. Similar livery, but in the Club 1500, it looks like Gabriel Carollo is well out in front. He's got a almost 4-second gap to Chris White in 2nd place. Looks like Chris White has got a bit of a train forming up behind him, according to the timing standings. No Sam Stott in this race, I have noticed. I wonder where he's got to in this one. He might have some technical issues, but we'll hope to have him back on board.
He has a lot of technical issues, doesn't he? And problems with his arm as well.
Yeah, so I wonder which one is keeping him out this time. So, relatively few incidents so far from a track which you normally expect the drivers tend to be quite confident at, as we see Turo Malaran there in 12th position. He's now driving, of course, for the Wizards.
I mean, is that because everybody's ditched the cars that were impossible to get around here from last season? I don't see too many, Audis and whatnot around here. I think, we haven't seen anybody just throw it off at Blanchimont yet.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how the Merc handles. As we see, in fact, Maxim Haggleston, he's in the Merc, which seems to be quite a popular choice this season. Seems to have quite a bit of straight line speed. So it does look like according to the timing standings, that Forrester's actually managed to pull a gap away from Nigel Jobling, as we see him go past there. In fact, that's Haggleston making a move on Jobling at the penultimate corner. Jordy Spetgens regaining his fastest lap there. That's a 2:16, and Rob Miller, of course, fighting back. He's got a 2:16.6 as well, which is quite pacey.
I'm expecting to see Greening come through the field a bit. He quite often qualifies a little bit down and then just makes his way up in the race, doesn't he?
I was just about to say that as well. In fact, is he going to start making a move round the outside here? In fact, there's going to be a whole trail of them, 5 cars. We'll see who's going to be breaking last here out of, I think this is Jobling and Haggleston. It looks like Haggleston's going to get the job done here. Indeed he does. And Steve Greening almost makes the move stick there as well. Rob Miller not having a great start to here at Spa. Him off track again. So Steve Greening pushing that car to the limit, really using as much space as he can grab there from Nigel. Managed to keep it fairly clean. A bit of door banging, but nothing wrong with that.
Knowing Rob, I imagine he's thinking about pitting as early as he can possibly get away with to try and jump some of this going on in front of him. Yeah,
and hopefully he won't get too caught up in any Club 1500 traffic. In a Club 1500, the standing so far is Carolla's leading about 4.5 seconds from White. White's ahead of the new driver Deckinder by about a second. Stephen Cakered in 4th, closely followed by Dano Hammond. Dano Hammond should be flying up the order, I expect, over the next half an hour or so. Roberto Costa is there, and Merrill Hoogovan is making his way up the order. I guess he started further back.
Should say that Hoogovan is doing really well in the F3 Championship.
Yeah, I've seen it, and you can check that out from another video on our channel. That we won't give away exactly what happened, but he's doing extremely well in the F3. A remarkable improvement over the course of the close season.
Although you do wonder if that's if the effort he's putting there is meaning he's spending less time in his GT3. So
yeah, you could be right there, Dave. I think. As we see Stephen Cakered and Dano Hammond. We'll see if Stephen can keep this position from Dano. Dano seems to be very quick. He might look to make the move going up the Camel Straight, as indeed a couple of other cars in the top split are. This is Stephen Greening. I'm liking the new livery from the Risky Racing guys. It's quite shiny, but and fresh, I think. But yeah, very nice nonetheless.
You think I preferred the old one?
Yeah, I think the old one's more in your face, isn't it? It's very bright.
I mean, I don't dislike this one, but the old one I instantly could recognise. So,
yeah, you definitely could. Yeah, you could definitely recognise that, and especially the Risky Racing orange one as well. Of which Ollie Ettridge is well down the order. He's in 17th position in the top split. I noticed that Dom Parker and what looks like Xander, they are listed as out, so I wonder what happened to them. We might get to see that later on. Michael Messenger sitting in 9th position. He's going to have and that's Evan Conception going off. That looked like a very strange way to go off at that corner. Looked like almost the steering had some kind of issue.
It was an Audi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just your reason.
So we might see some replays here. This looks like from lap 1, and Jordy Spetgens making the move in the inside of Ollie Walker. It was a great timed move on the brakes. This is Chris Forrester on cold tyres.
Saved.
Tried to keep. Yeah. He had Loic been on the inside of that corner, the other corner, he would have made it, but yeah, pretty unfortunate. bit of aero damage at least. And here we see Stephen Maxwell going up the inside. Yeah, pretty tight.
Yeah, you've got to yeah, I mean, oh dear.
Oh, and a bit of airtime. We've seen some of that last season as well. Yeah, a bit of a blind spot there, I guess, coming up the poor Janneman Proisen as well, just getting slightly clipped.
Yeah, that's hard to pull off.
Yeah, pretty difficult. Wow, it was a lot of carnage there.
I think if you do that, you just got to try and cut this next apex as much as you can without getting a slowdown.
Yeah, and that's Ollie Ettridge. Yeah, not much he could do about that. It's coming flat out. Dan Shaw, I think he must have narrowly missed. He must have been wondering what was happening there, I think. It's a bit of a game of pinball going up the Kemmel Straight. Here's Evan Conception. Let's see what happened to him.
Audi.
Oh,
Audi
yeah.
fence. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll call that the Audi effect. Yeah, free position there for Mike Messenger. So, David Line has dropped a little bit back. So it looks like these two are out in a league of their own.
Yeah, if he's not careful, he's going to fall into the clutches of Forrester down the main straight there, really. A bit of a toe.
Yeah, they might be coming into some lap traffic already. Indeed. Looks like we've got one of the Club 1500 stragglers up ahead. In fact, two of them it might be. Oh no, sorry, that's... Looks like Ollie Ettridge up there. So yeah, it looks like you're right in your assessment of the lap times. It looks like they're probably not going to get a faster lap as the fuel loads go down.
Yeah, it looks like Line's laps have really dropped off, whereas everyone else has remained relatively stable.
Yeah. I haven't seen too much action from the Club 1500. I guess they're quite spread out. Apart from it looks like these two here, White and Deckender, who seem to have been going at it for the past 6 laps or so. I think Deckender might have the pace on White here, but
I think Line's going to have to go defensive here.
Yeah, David Line making his car as wide as possible until the last moment, then taking the race in line. Good defensive manoeuvre there. That's all you can really do going up that straight, is make the car as wide as possible and just pray that they don't get in front before the cornering.
Yeah, you can defend there on the outside or the inside.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so David Line's going to have a bit of a hard task until the pit stops, I think.
And this is just going to be slowing both of them down as well. They're both about a second off the gaggle of cars behind them, so they'll probably all catch up with them. Yeah,
you don't want to be inviting the likes of Steve Greening, Nigel Jobling as well in there. And this looks like Steph Dickender. Is he looking to make a move on White? He does seem to look like he's got more pace than White at the moment. So one of our newest drivers up against one of our older drivers in this split, whether Chris will use his experience to... I know Chris normally does like to let faster drivers through, but probably not if they're in the same split. We will battle them.
When you say newest and oldest, do you mean as into the league or their age?
Yeah, well, who knows, but I guess in terms of the league, how long they've been in the league, yeah, for sure. Steph's letting off there, might be.
I mean, to some extent, you can just sort of back off there a bit and concentrate on getting a run down the main straight. Sometimes if you try and do a move there, then you can just get overtaken again down the main straight, right? So
yeah, that's true. Good point. So we might expect to see Rob Miller come into the pits in the next 5 minutes or so if he's planning an early stop. As we see Is Philip Forrester going to get the move done? Round the outside, he's managed to hold off David Line. And job done. But it's not over for David Line. He might be able to stick in the toe with Philip here. Philip's a remarkably quick driver, as we've seen at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I think he qualified a little bit out of position here, didn't he, really?
Yeah, I think you're right there. That's a good assessment. So the standings in the top split so far, Jordy Spetgens leading the way, followed by Walker and Forrester, Line in 4th. Haggleston in 5th, Greening, Jobling, Messenger, Abbott and Malaren round out the top 10. Gavin Kelly in 11th position, and his former teammate Rob Miller in 12th. Evans in 13th position, and there's a couple there. And in the Club 1500, Corolla leads the way, followed by White, Deckender, Hammond, Cakebread, Costa, Pusey, Shaw, Pepper and Jake Weaver round out the top 10, with McCann, Meesters, Pruiss, Forrester, Clark and then Jason Weaver rounding out that split. Of course, nice to see some new drivers in the Club 1500 as well. They got the likes of Steve Pepper, Dan Shaw. I guess we can call Eric Pusey new as well. He's fairly new. Some of these guys also in our F3 category, as we see. Who was that? I think, was that Ollie Ettridge there? Might have been Ollie Ettridge getting it wrong. Indeed, it looks like it was.
It's a lap down, so he must have been in the pits.
Yeah. Speaking of Eric Pusey, here he is. That might be Roberto Costa there as well, and Dan Shaw. Dan Shaw taking the inside line, gets the job done. So Dan Shaw must have made up a good 9 positions or so, because he started from the pits. So he's absolutely flying. We'll see how his progress goes through the race. David Line still on the tail of Philip Forrester, so he has managed to keep up pace with him. That's great. But in fact, as you predicted, the likes of Haggleston and Greening have managed to catch up. So the race for third position is very wide open at the moment as it stands. Oh, a bit of crunching going on there. So it looks like Tour Malaren's got a bit of a train forming behind him as well. Rob Miller, Gavin Kelly and Shane Abbott, of course. Rob might have the pace on this. I think that's Chris trying to still hold off Steph here. I think that's in fact it has invited Dan O'Hammond into the fight for second place here. And another Club 1500 battle. It's got Dan Shaw on the tail of Roberto Costa, and of course Eric Pusey, who just overtaken, as we're approaching lap 10 already. Rear view shot from David Line. Oh, and who's this going slow? It's Tour Malaren, so something must have happened to him. Looked like kind of almost like suspension damage there. There's a nice little battle forming up in the top split. Jordy Spetgens is not messing around, is still keeping a fastest lap for himself, 2:15.9. That's incredible, given that isn't really expected to get faster as the race progresses.
Oh, that's an off track.
Yeah, it's quite a wide line. And it looks like Tour Malaren is taking his pit stop now.
So Miller's up to 9th now after his couple of offs, but 7 seconds behind.
Yeah, and in fact that's probably going to give him some clear air now to push on. I think he might only have the Club 1500 leader, if that, in front of him. In fact, it's probably just one car lap traffic we can see from the map.
Yeah, Forrester's not pulling away there. I think it's one of those things, because the toe is so strong.
Yeah.
You kind of feel, well, I'm just so much faster and get past, and then you get past, and then they've got the toe on you, and you just end up the way around.
Yeah. So looks like Deckinder has gone into the pits in the Club 1500. Also, Sean Clark in the pit lane as well. As we see a replay. Oh, that looked. Oh, Turam Lauren getting hit by QRS. I think was that Shane Abbott possibly. Yeah, it was indeed Shane Abbott. Yeah, it's just a tightening gap. It is a. I wouldn't surprise me if we see more than one collision at that corner if they're going side by side.
I mean, he knew that he was responsible for that, and he just let
it off. Yeah, that's fair play from Shane. That's only part one, as we see Turi getting it wrong and clipping the barrier. So that's the reason why he's going into the pits. So it's going to get quite messy, I think, in terms of the standings, as looks like we've got multiple pit strategies going on. In fact, Shane Abbott's coming into the pits also now. Some cars going slow when coming out of the pits.
I think Line's in trouble here.
Yeah, it looks like Greening might have the better of him going up the hill. He took as wide a line possible, but
his you can see his back end was wiggling all over the place for a rouge there.
Yeah, all in vain. But they should be able to keep up with Maxim here. But let's see, Forrester might be able to pull away if these guys start battling. There's cars all over the place, but makes for good battling in the top split, at least, because we have a good 5 or 6 guys here all in contention for third. And in fact, you could argue Michael Messenger could be in this battle also. We haven't seen Rob Miller pit, I believe, and in fact he's closing the gap a little bit. I've just kept my eye on his standings there, so he's closed the gap by a good 2.5 seconds or so.
Yeah, I mean now he's jumped a few cars in front of him. He's got a little bit of a gap that he can just set onto his own pace into really. Yeah,
and in the Club 1500, Corolla's well out in front by about 9 seconds. So whether he's got a massive pace advantage over the rest of the field, or whether he's going to start burning through his tyres, maybe he's pushing it extremely hard at this moment in time. We'll soon see, because if he is pushing too hard too early, the gap, I expect that gap will come down towards the end. But it looks like Daniel Hammond has pitted, as Michael Messenger's trying to get moved on Jobling. Is he gonna? He thinks better of it. Nice neon blue hubcaps on the BMW of Michael Messenger. Makes it nice for a nighttime race. So Forrester's pitted. We'll see if the early pit stop comes into an advantage.
That's pretty early to pit from that position, so I can only assume that he had less fuel really, because I wouldn't have thought that would be strategic.
Yeah, maybe didn't want to give the others an advantage in the draft also, possibly. It's a very quick pit stop. He's already came out the pit exit according to our stats. So it is a 5-way battle for third at the moment. This is Nigel Jobling and Michael Messenger, both going side by side at Lakeholm. But it looks like Mike Messenger's got the move on. Nigel thinks, hang on, I'm going to take it down into Brussels.
It's pretty clean.
Holds it, but yeah,
pretty clean.
Yeah, it's very clean. But Mike Messenger holds him off. But yeah, congratulations to the guys on keeping that well held. Nice and respectful racing. That's what we love to see here. If of course you're enjoying the racing and not part of the group already, feel free to join in our Discord. No doubt the link will be in the description, and you can sign yourself up for races, and the league will welcome you with open arms.
That is, unless you like to dip your tyres on the grass, which is which is there was a lot of commotion about that prior to this race.
Yeah, Grassgate, I guess we'll call it. We'll leave it at that. But great to see the guys enjoy fair racing and not exposing any of the kind of flaws in the iRacing service. Oh, and that's Maxim getting it wrong into the pit lane. In fact, is this David Line part 2? This is imitating
worse.
David.
This is even worse. You're going to have to do a 10-point turn out there.
You're going to have to get the Benny Hill music out for this one. Wow. Who's that? Is that Gavin? Is Gavin Kelly? Yeah, isn't Gavin Kelly's going to have to... That's cost him about 3 seconds time trying to enter the pits as well. So, nightmare from Maxim there.
That's one of the worst pit entries for that to happen in.
Yeah.
Completely 90 degrees as well.
Yeah. So that's going to cost him a bit of time. Sean Clark is still in the pit, so he must not have used a fast repair, or he's used it and had some damage already. Someone's flashing their lights, trying to get their attention. I guess that's on a back marker. Yeah, Nigel Jobling trying to get round one of the back markers. One of the few Lamborghinis I think we've got in the race. So Michael Messenger's actually pulling away a little bit, and now with Stephen Maxwell gives him some space to get the job done. So in the Club 1500, Roberto Corsa up to 5th position, but I believe Dan O'Hammond might take that position once the pit strategies stretch themselves out.
Yeah, it's interesting when you see the leaderboard like that, really, because it's quite sort of mixed, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah.
The top 7 are all top split, but after that, it's quite mixed.
Yeah, I believe Dan Shaw is showing us having a pit stop, but I believe that might be because he started from the pit lane. So I suspect he will have a pit stop left to take. Stephen Mccann sitting in 8th position at the moment as well. We haven't seen much of him. In fact, down to 9th position now as Janneman Proust overtakes him. Eric Pusey doing pretty well in 6th. He said he wasn't too confident at this track, but he's doing not too bad. In fact, he's keeping in touch with Roberto Costa, and Roberto's quite an experienced driver.
So who are the youngest and the oldest drivers in the league? Do you know that? Or?
I suspect Dan Shaw might be our youngest driver. Our oldest, I wouldn't care to say. I don't want to speculate, but I don't know if you want to give anyone that title. As who was that getting weird? Gavin Kelly had to dodge. It was indeed Eric, but he makes it to the pits. It's just a alternative pit line, I guess. Stephen Cakebread making his pit stop as well. So the top 7 still have to pit. So it's going to be a case of who blinks first. And Spetgens has actually managed to pull a 2-second gap from Walker now. So really showing his strength at Spa.
2 seconds though can go in the pits.
Yeah,
easily.
they certainly can.
Much more than that if you do an Austin Powers.
So it looks like Malarin closing in on Maxim after Maxim had that issue with his pit stop. So Maxim's lost about 3-4 positions based on that. Quite split out in Club 1500 at the moment. We'll see. We've still got Carollo, White, and in fact Costas might be taking his pit stop shortly. As we see a replay, Gavin Kelly, approaching the pit lane, only to be surprised by a Merc sitting in the only way in. No way around that one.
It's really easy to do though when you're attacking it, because you do loads and loads of laps of the circuit, don't you? But you don't practice your pit ins to the same amount, right?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm always guilty of just taking it too easy through the pit in. Really, never always lose a bit of time through them.
Yeah. As you just seen there, that looked like the top two in Club 1500 taking their mandatory pit stops, or technically mandatory. Would be very wizard-like fuel saving if you were to go without taking a pit stop here.
So lines come out of the pits 1 second behind Forrester.
Yeah. So he's gained a bit of time there. So let's see how that will affect the other 5. Whether that's going to push them further up as well. Looks like Miller's lost a bit of time to Messenger overall in the timings.
Well, he was second. He was 7 seconds behind Nigel, though, wasn't he? But was Nigel's come into pit? So, yeah.
We'll see how that plays out. Which means we haven't seen too much of him today, and that's Steve Pepper just behind him. Steve, of course, new to the league this season. Looks like he's doing fairly well, having a better race this time round compared to Watkins Glen, and sitting in 8th position, which will bag him some points. But Rich, quite an experienced driver, also running in our F3 series. According to that, Rich has taken 3 stops, so I wonder how accurate that is, but if it is, he's done it remarkably well to keep himself up in the top 10. As it looks like all the top split guys are now coming in to make their fuel stops. And Jordy gets away. He's increased his lead by about 3/10 or so, but it looks like Greening has actually managed to catch up slightly. Oh, and it's very close between Michael Messenger and Philip Forrester there, but that looks like Mike Messenger's made up some time, and of course David Line and Nigel Jobling right behind them as well.
Yeah, he's Messenger came into pit when he came out. He's slotted in between Line and Forrester.
Yeah, so good pit stop strategy there from Michael Messenger. He'll be pleased with that one. High fives all around from the Risky Racing pit crew, I guess. In the Club 1500, it looks like White has made up about 3 seconds or so in that pit stop to Carollo, so we'll see how that gap fares. And Dan Shaw has made his pit stop now, and only 2 seconds behind, so it looks like there's a good battle going on for second place in that split. As we see the pit strategy stint lengths there on the bottom right of your screen. Yeah, so that's and that's Gabriel going very wide. So he might be. I'm sure he didn't take any new tyres. That would have been too much time lost.
How many off tracks are we allowed in a race?
I believe it's 12 off tracks, so it's pretty harsh.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, use them wisely, as they say. In fact, that Club 1500 gaps went down to 3.4 seconds from what was 9 seconds, so that's went down a lot. Oh, and that's Philip Forrester taking a spin at the chicane. Oh, he's going to be kicking himself for that, because that's allowed a gaggle of cars to go past. Nigel Jobling setting his fastest lap of the race so far, so he's still putting in consistent laps.
Looks like he might be on for a move against line here.
Yeah, indeed, you're right. Let's see how this plays out, going up into the Camel Straight. Line will be hoping he can just get a bit of tow off from Michael Messenger.
Might be a little bit too far away for a good one.
Yeah. It's very close, but David Line holds him off. Will Nigel think about going in the inside? No, it must be too far back for a move on into Brussels. It's going to have to be patient and go again next lap, I believe.
You're doing very well with the corner names. I can only remember 2 of them.
Funny enough, I haven't mentioned Pouhon, but no one seemed to have crashed here at Pouhon so far.
Well, you say Pouhon, but I'm looking at a track map here, and it's called the Double Gauche? Double Gauche?
All right.
I don't know. I don't know whether that's outdated or not, whether that's new or old. I'm looking at another one that says Pouhon, which I'm more familiar with.
Double gauche. Gauche means left in French, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For all our French speakers, I'm sure we've got a couple in our league. Gavin Kelly in 12th position at the moment. He's got some way to get to Tourmalaren, but I guess Gavin's taking it nice and steady. Of course, Don Parker out of the race. It'll be interesting to see what happened to him. Oh, and Nigel coming in very hot there. And Shane Abbott trying to catch up with Gavin Kelly. So it's still battles up and down the field.
Shane's surprisingly far down the field, because I think he was, I think at the last race he was in contention for the win, wasn't he? Or maybe third position.
Yeah, he was around about 3rd position, wasn't he? So obviously had some issues this race.
Looks like Line's going to have to go defensive again.
Yeah, it's going to have to stick in that. Or is he going to? He's going to push him to the inside. No. Takes a faster line round the outside. Is Nigel going to have the better line going into turn 10 and 11? Oh, they're going in.
Oh, it's a
very
tiny bit of contact there.
Small bit of contact, but that's part of racing sometimes. David Line cedes the position, but Nigel going very wide. That's obviously an off track, which will count against his limit.
That was pretty fair though, wasn't it? Pretty fair, close racing.
Yeah, it was very well done by both drivers. So we're going to see a replay, in fact, of that move. Yeah, well, that speaks for itself.
There was clear air between the cars, but I think because of network lag and stuff like that, I think there was just the tiniest bit. But that's what happens when you try and stick it around the outside. Try and stay around the outside of a turn, really.
Yeah. No, but both cars in one piece. That's the main thing. So Ollie Walker's managed to get the gap down from what was about 2.5 seconds to 1.4, and in fact, look at that. Jordy Spetgens had the fastest lap for about, as the timing suggests, 1.5 seconds there. So Ollie Walker taking that fastest lap from him. Remarkable stuff here in the final closing stages. In fact, here we do see Philip Forrester, and he did spin at P1. So not the best ending for him. Wow. Wonder what happened there. It's almost an identical incident to what we've seen with Evan.
Yeah, that was horrific.
Yeah, just steering wheel seemed to give way. Down in the Club 1500, it seems to be hotting up. The gap to the leader is only 3.1 seconds, and Dan Shaw's about a second gap to White. And as we see, Jan Proes hunting down Rich Meesters. Of course, points for these positions as well, and these will all count towards the Constructors' Championship.
So yeah, lots of people setting their fastest laps at the moment, which shows there's no real problem with tyre wear, you know.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. Yeah, and Janneman's a pretty fast driver. In fact, I'm surprised to see him in that car. Normally, I think we've seen him in the BMW last season. And according to the standings, Sean Clark and Steph Dickinder are out. So they must have had some terminal type damage. Jason Weaver, who we haven't seen too much of this race, regards to him, and of course Stephen Mccann, they are sitting in the pits as it stands, probably be getting some repairs from the mechanics. So back to this battle for 5th in the top split. It's going to be close because we're coming up to the penultimate lap, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie's caught up Jordy a little bit, but I think it's tall order to close that in one more lap.
Yeah, it might be too little too late. So Maxim trying to hold on to 9th position, and in fact it's trying to battle Evan for that 8th position. Rob Miller still setting his fastest lap of the race, 2:16.5. Not in Ollie Walker territory, but it's still fast nonetheless. And here, in fact, it's Dan Shaw. He's close right up to Chris White, so he's battling for second position in the Club 1500. Might be too little too late to catch Gabriel. See Gavin Kelly going wide, but he's probably desperate to keep Shane Abbott off his tail. But Shane might have the run here. So this is Maxim and Evan. Maxim thinks better of going side by side here. Will Shane manage to hold this off? It's very close. Oh, and that's Chris White and Dan Shaw having a little clip together. I think that's just a racing incident.
A little bit of rubbing.
Yeah, I think we've seen a similar incident with two of the top split guys. So still battling away, Evan and Maxim. All to play for. Get those extra points. Yeah, this must be the final lap, so it looks like Jordy Spetgens lays claim to the title credentials and takes first position here at Spa, closely followed behind by Ollie Walker, who continues to set a fastest lap on the final lap of the race. Congratulations to them. Steve Grinney takes a remarkable 3rd place from what was 7th position at the start. Michael Messenger takes a very nice 4th position. That's great Constructors' Championship points for them. Nigel Joblin takes 5th, just ahead of David Line. Rob Miller in 7th, as we see him crossing the line. Well done to Maxim. Could have been better had it not been for that pit stop. And Tour takes 9th position. Well done. Nice could have been better for him, but he did have a couple of issues also, as we've seen earlier in the race. And Shane Abbott looks to have got the better of Evan. And Gabriel Carollo takes his maiden victory in Club 1500 for Woods of Liston Coast. Congratulations to Gabriel, and Dan Shaw pips Chris White to second position. Well done, Dan. Good result. And Daniel Hammond, another great result for him. He's looking like one of the contenders this season in the Club 1500. Stephen Cakebrett taking 5th position. And Roberto Costa flashing his lights away. Well done, Roberto. Nice result in 6th. So I think that leaves Jordy well out in front in the championship at the moment. He's got off to a flyer.
2 wins in a row, isn't it?
Yeah, so that is no disrespect to him, because he is a very fast driver, but I wasn't expecting 2 wins from 2. But yeah, it's certainly putting his name out there.
Definitely. I mean, there haven't been huge gaps to the driver behind, so not super easy ones, but yeah, 2 wins.
Yeah. So, as we've seen a couple of incidents, it must have been from the last lap. I think this was. Yeah, we've seen a couple like that, just a bit of an error gap. Yeah, I wondered why Gavin. Yeah, what happened to Gavin here? I just seem to let off the position. And yeah, they're coming together between Chris and Dan. Nothing much in that. I guess it was the final lap and just both going for what was a highly coveted second position.
Yeah, I doubt that would go to the stewards.
Yeah. So not worth any penalty, I believe. Yeah. Almost identical to what we've seen in the top split. So, Jordy Spetgens wins from Ollie Walker, Steve Greening in 3rd, Michael Messenger in 4th, followed by Nigel Jobling. David Lyne takes 6th position, Robert Miller in 7th, Maxim Haggleston in 8th, Turo Milan in 9th, Evan rounds out the top 10. Kelly, Abbott, Hugavin, Maxwell, Ettridge, Philip Forrester takes 16th position. That'll be disappointing for him. Xander Van Herwegen and Dom Parker round out the top split. So it looks like Dom came out of the race fairly early. Yeah, so moving on to the Club 1500 lot. Gabriel Carollo takes his maiden victory. Dan Shaw takes 2nd position, and Chris White round out the podium positions. Daniel Hammond, Cakebread, Costa, Martin, Steve Pepper taking 8th position. Janneman Pruis in 9th, and Rich Meesters round out the top 10. Then followed by Pusey, Jake Weaver taking 12th, Chris Forrester in 13th, Mccann taking 14th, Jason Weaver in 15th, Deckender and Clark, they finished in 16th and 17th respectively. Very well turned out attendance in Spa as well, which is always a favourite with many of the GT drivers, and we expect that to continue into the season. So as expected, Jordy Spetgens well out in front, a 40-point lead ahead of Stephen Greening. Ollie Walker putting in a good performance today, brings him to 44 points. Philip Forrester, he'll be disappointed with those last minute struggles. He'll be looking to improve over the next couple of races or so, but he's still in contention. It's very close for 3rd all the way down to 6th or 7th, you can argue really. So Lee Harding and his teammate Rick Barrow weren't here today, so they'll be looking up to pick some points. Hopefully it should, I believe, was it Rick that might have, or one of the two have some technical issues at the moment, but hopefully they will join us soon.
Yeah, I think that table's quite mixed up by the fact that a lot of those drivers have only done 1 or 2 races because it's holiday season. Everybody's on holidays at the moment.
Yeah. So Daniel Hammond leading the way in 72 points, Stephen Cakebread in 55, Gabriel obviously taking his first race as a victory on 52. Mark Innis, he wasn't here today, but no doubt will be back shortly, we hope. Janneman Pruis in 5th, Roberto Costa in 6th, Dan Shaw moves up 9 positions to 7th, Chris White good result for him and moves up to 8th. Eric Pusey and Stephen Pepper. Steve moves up 4 positions. And we'll move on to the constructors now. So Alpha Esports Red on 105 points, leading the way. Risky Racing Blue, who I think might be favourites for the Constructor Championship. They're on 90 points, so not too far behind, but it is a large battle for 3rd position. So you've got QRS, Blackpink, Alpha Esports, Sleepy Time Racing, who no doubt will charge up the standings should they reappear. And not forgetting the A team of Rob Miller and David Lyne. We can't count them out as the season progresses as well. Ollie Ettridge had a disappointing day at the races, and his teammate Reece Crichton wasn't here today, so I expect them to move up rather swiftly as well. So Only Dan's well out in front on 115 points in the Club 1500, and you've got a battle between the Wizards. You've got Transmutation and Transmogrification in 2nd and 3rd respectively. Sleepy Time Racing, who of course Mark Innis wasn't here, and you've got McLaren, who probably aren't doing as well as what they could have at the moment. I think Chris had a bad result at Alton Park, which they look to improve on. Team Keep Together have dropped down the standings a bit, but Team Fet from the Weavers have gathered some points as well, so well done to those guys. So next time we're at Hockenheim, I believe, so that should be good. But what did you think of the race at Spa, Dave?
It was enjoyable, yeah. I thought we were going to have problems seeing anything in the dark, but it was fine. It was fine. It was less mayhem than last season, but yeah, still pretty good.
Yeah, maybe there's improved lighting at Spa, and hopefully I wasn't paying their electricity bill. But moving on to Hockenheim, that should be a good track as well. I think many of the drivers will know that. Again, I'm going to get my Mystic Meg ball, and I'm going to make a prediction already, and I think Philip Forrester, if he's in the race, he might be one of the ones challenging there, especially challenging Jordy, and possibly Steve Greening might be up there. What about yourself? Have you got any predictions you'd like to make?
I'm just trying to think, have we done Hockenheim in the GT3s before? We have in the F3s, haven't we? I don't know, in the F3s I think Ollie was a little bit off the pace on there, that we got a good result there. So yeah, I'd have to go for Greening or Jordy.
Yeah, I wouldn't even count out Ollie Ettridge, because I think Ollie Ettridge can have good and bad days as well, so we'll look at see. In Club 1500 it could be anyone's race. Mark Innis, he might be there. We've seen Dan Shaw, he's got pace as well. Gabriel's just put his name in the hat. Chris White got back into form at Spa as well, so he might be in amongst there. And not forgetting Chris Forrester, he was doing well up until this spin. But on to what we call driver of the day. I think driver of the day is tough in the top split, but I might give it to Jordy. I think you can't complain. Beating Ollie Walker on what is possibly his best track, this is quite an achievement. In Club 1500, well, I think I just have to give it to Gabriel. Great showing on his first race. Have you got any names you'd want to throw into that hat, Dave?
I know, I agree with that. I mean, I think Greening did a good job at coming through the field though, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. That was a great drive from him, considering where he started from. So yeah, absolutely. So that wraps things up here from Spa. Enjoyable race, and thanks for joining us. We'll no doubt see you in the next one. So it's goodbye from Chris and goodbye from Dave.
Cheers.